and welcome to the Whaler Guys. I'm a Whaler guy, Peter Hindle. Jerry Irwin's off on assignment, but I'm here with Mike Fields. Mike and I have been friends for a while, and we have had a lot of great discussions about Hartford and its history. So this is going to be a little bit different show. We always say we do more than hockey. So this is one of those shows where we're going to do more than hockey. We're going to show you some of the history of Hartford and how much history there is in Hartford that you just do not know about. What makes Hartford, that special city, a city of firsts, as it will be. And Mike and I, like I said, we've had many discussions. We've had discussions about, creating maybe an app, having someone help us create an app where you could be downtown and see pictures of historical places, photos from the past, and along those lines. But and if I could just say, sure. Mike here is an out-of-towner, out-of-stater. So it's great to get his perspective on this because he's been here now, about 11 years. Mm-hmm. So it's great to see, because most of the time when people on the show are local, or they've been here, lived here their whole lives, so you don't get to see that input from somebody from out of state. And you've learned quite a lot about it.
So sometimes it takes a different kind of perspective. I didn't grow up here. I didn't see the city evolve into what it is today. I moved up here in 2004. And had the opportunity to work in Hartford on a daily basis and walk the streets and really think about maybe what's happened here before. And as Pete said, I'm not truly a student of history, but I have a great love and a great passion for history, and Pete and I talk quite a bit about that, even though you should be working. But that is something that has really come to mean a lot to me. I have the opportunity on a regular basis from where I work to look out across the streets in Hartford, look across Trumbull and down Pearl and along Asylum, and sometimes take the opportunity to walk over to Bushnell Park and really experience the city at the street level. And as I'm doing that, I've often, and I've shared this with Pete, visualized where the city was before and what the evolution of the city was, going back all the way to the 1600s, walking through the ancient burial grounds, really experiencing that, why things are named the way they are, and really have developed an appreciation for Hartford as a not just as a city, but as a place that has evolved and really truly. Pete mentioned a city of first. I mean, so many things happened here, and in part, what I really have a passion for and talked with Pete about, and we've been talking about this for years, frankly, is trying to bring some of the things that we've talked about and that I can kind of visualize as we're walking around the streets. How can I bring that to other people? Because most people, if you ask them, don't realize that J.P. Morgan was born on the corner of Trumbull and Asylum, and that he grew up there, and we actually walked the same streets that he did, and experience Hartford from our perspective, just like he did. So I find those things interesting. I've had the opportunity to ask a lot of people that lived their whole lives in Connecticut, had no idea. And the other thing was I really kind of was eye-opening to me is visiting other cities. Can I mention other cities?
Sure.
Okay, just checking. Just no other hockey teams.
Yeah, no Bruin talk.
Yeah,
we don't allow Bruin talk, but that's all right.
That's all right. Can I talk about the Lightning?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I moved from Tampa in 2004.
Right.
I think something happened in 2004 that year for the Lightning.
Yeah, very good. Cup winner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I was the only person in Hartford that night who's actually cheering for them.
Maybe so.
I was sitting in a hotel room.
There's not a lot of Calgary fans, so I don't know. I think that's who they played.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
But no, I totally lost my train of thought. But
What about other cities?
Walking the Freedom Trail in Boston and walking a painted red line from location to location got me thinking about, this is, my son will remind me of the 21st century and the advent of smartphones and really GPS integrated apps that can identify where you are and what you're looking at and integrate those into media in layers, and really got me thinking about what we could actually accomplish. And as he was alluding to, we've been talking about this and trying to figure out the best approach for creating an app that looks at where you are from a GPS location within the city. Let's use the corner of Trumbull and Asylum, for example, and peel back the years on a timeline using multimedia presentation, using stills, using video, using audio, maybe even music, and there are great speeches that have been reenacted or have actually occurred within the streets of Hartford. How can we draw that in and allow people to really experience the entirety of the history from one location, from 1994 to 1974 to 1864, and really see those peeled back. And in some cases, I would also, I can envision theatrical presentations, and there's some great theater groups here. There's great kids. I think about when we went to the ancient burial grounds and the program that was being done by the librarians at the Hartford Library with the middle school kids, and they were walking us around and telling us all about the different parts of the ancient burial grounds. How can we bring that to it? And I really have a passion. I'm very fortunate to be a father of two great kids, and looking for opportunities for kids like them to be involved, from developing the software to developing the media or the content. How can we do those things? And go beyond just, hey, here's a cool app for free. And I think there's opportunities there.
And it would be just as simple as, like, for example, we'll start with the old State House because it's just a central piece, and everybody knows it's old, and everybody knows it's been there a while. And you may not know this, but in the 70s, they actually debated just plowing the whole thing and making it into a parking lot, which is, a crying shame. But the whole point is if you're standing at the State House Square and you have this app about Hartford, it's going to tell you a couple things, like Charles Bulfinch built this building before, it was actually the first, I think it's the first public courthouse built in America, and Boston loved it so much that they called them up and said, the way you made it in Hartford, make it here in Boston. So the one in Boston is actually preceded, or I'm sorry, it's after the one that was built in Hartford. And if, a little bit more macabre, but the first witch, I'll put in quotes, was hung in Hartford. Elsa Young was convicted of witchcraft and hung in Hartford in 1647. That's 45 years before the Salem witch trials. I feel bad, but that's a fact of life that that these things happened here in Hartford, and we're trying to make sure that they're not lost, that they're brought to the forefront. There's so many other things, and it doesn't have to be so old. I mean, we talk about turn of the 20th century here. The Traveller's Tower was at one point the 7th largest tower in the world, and it's built in 1919, and today it's still really the iconic probably structure in Hartford.
And we were talking about, before the show started, about a certain airship that was going past it.
Photo incredible. The Hindenburg at one time, there was a great shot on an old Hartford photo showing the Hindenburg above the Traveller's Tower. This is way before a couple years before the war, but it's so strange to see, that in Hartford, and just so many other things like that happen. And we talked about the inside the old State House is a painting of George Washington. It's such an incredible painting that if you've seen movies or TV shows, especially in the White House, they'll shoot this around this painting. They have so many recreations. But it was I remember it was commissioned for Hartford, and it was actually done after he had passed. I think it's 1802 is the painting. But if you go see that in the old State House, it's amazing. And of course, George Washington has been to this State House.
Oh yeah, repeatedly.
And he met the first meeting of the commander of the French armies and the general of the American armies. Happened at the State House Square. So they met in Hartford, Rochambeau.
That's right.
And that's here we are. We've rattled off 4 or 5 events that have happened just at the State House.
Well, and what's amazing is you think about it in terms of the time frames.
Right.
So you went from the 1930s
Yeah.
to the 1800s,
Yeah.
and then you're rolling back to
Yeah.
the 1700s
All
during
sequential.
the Revolution, and then you can go back. I mean,
Right.
you could easily go back in the
Yeah.
early 1700s. The experiences of the early colonial period here,
Yeah.
the things that happened here,
Yeah.
going back to the charter and the whole mystique around that.
Yeah,
And a lot of that's been lost to history and demolition and
Yeah, there has been. Yeah, there's been some. Yeah.
And I'm thankful that everything hasn't been churned into a parking lot.
Right.
And I appreciate what the city has tried to do, but I think this is an opportunity for us to try to take a step, as opposed to relying on asking the city to do it or asking someone else to take it on. I think we have an opportunity, and I appreciate Pete allowing me to come on with it.
Oh, no
today.
problem. Like I said, you really have like I said, we've had long discussions. You have a great deal of knowledge
You've been stuck
about
with me
it.
for what, the last 6 years, 7 years?
Right, but we've covered so much ground in those last 6 years. It's like, hey, let's get on the show and see, if we can talk about this. And we talked about first, but one of the things that I love about it is the governor's guard. There was a governor was appointed by the King of England, Governor Pitkin, and they were having a celebration, and the local authorities involved in it got out of hand. So the governor created the Governor's Guard in October 1st, 1771. It's the first military. Former military group formed here, but it predates the form of the union of the Constitution.
Oh,
so
wow.
so it's before the Constitution. And you talk about I'm trying to remember. There's another event that happened before the Constitution that I had lost my thought on. But there were so many other firsts, like the first two-sided building.
Right.
The Phoenix. Now we're going, like I said, we were talking 1771. Now we're in 1964, and the Phoenix building in Hartford, which you come over the Founder's Bridge, you see this two-sided building. That's the first two-sided building built in the world.
In the entire world.
In the entire world. It's just incredible. And then just across the river there, you see the Bulkley Bridge, and that's the largest stone arch bridge in the world.
Right.
It's
Built
pretty
in,
good.
built in the early 1900s.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, again, like I said, you're jumping all these time frames, but there's just so many firsts.
Right.
We talk about the Memorial Arch is the first. They call it a triumphant arch or triumphal arch built in the U.S.
In the United States.
I think it was in the 1880s when that was completed, and that was built completely for memorial of the Civil War. But at the time, there were so many Civil War soldiers in Hartford. After the war, because they were here to get care, because Hartford was this leading,
It was really
area.
the back office
Yeah.
for the Union. There was a tremendous amount of troops that were brought up here that were injured.
Yeah.
And I probably shared with you before. Many times looking at Pearl Street, thinking about
Right.
late 1864, early 1865, and picturing Union and Confederate soldiers lined up on the sidewalk,
Right.
because the hospitals were overflowing with
Right.
injured from both
Oh,
sides.
sure.
And I can so easily visualize, the dirt road, the dirt street of
Yeah.
Pearl,
Right.
and the sidewalk, really plank sidewalks, storefronts, and soldiers lined up along those, lying there, and the women and the children were walking among them, handing out bits of food or water.
Right.
It's humbling to think about,
Right.
Everything that's been experienced in the city, going back to its founding, going back, Reverend Hooker, he really established, in the fundamental orders that, you're talking early 1600s.
1639.
That really
Yeah.
predates any talk of constitutionality or, and really looked to create the first agreement or constitution among the people within an area.
Yeah.
Right. So that predates
Anything here.
anything like that.
Yeah.
You can point back to the Mayflower Compact and
Yeah.
some of the agreements there,
Yeah.
but that was as much a business arrangement as
Right.
it was
And that's only
anything else.
19 years earlier, really.
Yeah, but what took place here was more of
Right.
a social contract as opposed to a business contract.
Right.
And an agreement to
Right.
respect and abide.
And that's why we came up. That's why if you look on your license plate, it says Constitution State, and everybody's like, What is that all about? What does that mean? The Constitution say, well, here it is Reverend Hooker came up with these fundamental orders in 1639, and the country kind of modeled it after that. So, I mean, there's a first right there. So that's, and the other thing that I did forget earlier was when I was talking about first and stuff that predates the Constitution was the Hartford Current. Hartford Current, it was called the Connecticut Current, but I think it was December 31st in 71 or 2 or something around there, but it was a couple years before. 64, no, you're right, 1764. So this is the oldest continually published paper in the country, well, it may not be doing so well right now, but it's still here. So, but all these other firsts for it, and we talk about things like Mark Twain. And the things that he absolutely loved Hartford, and I think here is where he wrote. I forgot the King Arthur's Court there. What's a Yankee in King Arthur's Court. That's still a part of Hartford where it was good, and he was such a huge literary figure. He's probably he's so famous in Hartford, even though he wasn't really born here. But he's pretty much been all over the country. Everywhere I go, it seems like he's been there. So.
But his greatest works were really done primarily here. You could debate which is the greatest work, but writing his writing that took place and not just his actual published novels and so forth, his books, but you look at him as a political commentary. Yeah. He was really the first stand-up comedian. I mean, he really was. He was really on stage the entirety of his life, and that's how he lived, and that's. And he was a good. I think he was actually a blues fan. He was a baseball fan. But that's why they actually, if you remember, with the Yard Goats and the minor league baseball team here, they came up with the Yard Goats. But one of the names was Blue Frogs, and it had to do with him writing that story about the jumping frog from. But the blue was also to play tribute to the blues, because Hartford actually had a national Major League Baseball team known as the Hartford Blues. They were owned by Buckley, William Buckley, who I just told you about the bridge he had built, named after him. It's just there's just so many things, and that's why we want to bring that to the forefront, so that Boston and Philadelphia and all these other cities have tremendous history, but you may not know how much history Hartford has. And I think it's really about some of those areas you mentioned. I mean, I'll use Philadelphia or Boston examples. I mean, those cities made commitments to retaining certain historical buildings or certain historical areas. And I think you go back to the 60s and 70s and kind of looking at where cities were making decisions about their landscape and what they kept and what they plowed under. And some of those cities made choices, and they dedicated areas as historical areas, and they retained that. And that's really been a draw for tourists. I mean, frankly, that's why I drove to Boston, to actually experience that and to walk that trail. That I haven't been to Philadelphia for different reasons I won't go into. Flyer fan. And however, I mean, that they made a choice. That I've been to Plymouth, same thing. I mean, early 70s, late 60s, they made a decision to retain certain historical buildings. And by doing that, they've created niche tourism destinations in their cities that generated, people walking the streets, experiencing the history. I've bought a hat. I have the T-shirt, if you will. And I think there's an opportunity there as well. I think bringing history back to Hartford for the residents of Hartford means something, but I think there's also an opportunity to create one of the things that's really, I think, necessary in driving opportunity within the city going forward, and that's how do we draw people to downtown? How do we get people here to experience the type of city that we see as we look out the window, or whether you're going to a hockey game or going to the convention center, went to the car show or whatever. How do you get people to come here and experience that? And I think we have an opportunity to do that. And it seems fundamentally a straightforward, simple thing. I think in structure it can be. I'm not a programmer. I don't pretend to be a programmer. I'd rather work with really smart people than be a really smart person. Because I think there's an opportunity to draw talent together. I think from the great tech schools within the city.
Mhm.
There's great theatrical. My goodness, Hartford Stage is up the street.
Yeah.
Bushnell is
Yeah.
a couple blocks over.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had the opportunity to go to shows at both. I mean, those are great venues.
Yeah.
Great music here.
Mhm.
All of those things.
Right.
And people that have an appreciation and a passion for things that we do. I'm humbled at times to talk. While we can talk about people that didn't realize that J.P. Morgan lived there, there have been plenty of people that I've had the opportunity to talk to over the past 10 years that do understand the history of the city and of the state overall. And I think there is a clear opportunity to try to draw some of those people together and figure out a way to do this.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't, I mean, you could even make it as simple as, hey, these are Hartford 10 firsts. I mean, you know, we mentioned,
simple.
I know, because we already have, like, I would rattle off a bunch, but, you know, even Bushnell
You didn't
Park.
even say the best one.
Which one's this?
What's about the Burger King? Can I say Burger King?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
the father of anesthesia. If any of you have walked through Bushnell Park, there's a nice little statue of him, Horace Wells. Happens to be the uncle of he was the ran the Navy for Lincoln during the Civil War.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Wells as well.
Yeah.
And but his office, he was a dentist, and his office is above the Burger King. And you
On Asylum in Maine, yeah.
on Asylum in Maine.
Yeah.
There's a nice little plaque.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
just imagine
Yeah.
pre-Civil War.
Right, right.
So if you've ever seen a movie like Glory, where they are pretty descriptive without, not at a Saving Private Ryan level, but
right.
where you see maybe the horror of what happened in medicine for the Civil War. I mean, here was 1844, Horace Wells invents nitrous oxide, which becomes, anesthesia.
Right.
First for dentistry and then to other surgeries.
Right. So if you ever had a tooth pulled and it hurt, or it didn't hurt as bad as you thought it was,
Right.
you could thanks Horace
It's only a
Wells.
shot that hurts.
You can go to Burger King and pay homage to his
Right.
plaque. But I think that's what we're thinking. We recognize that Hartford does put these areas on display with a plaque, but it's not loud enough, if that's the right word to use. But I mean, it doesn't grab your attention. We think this app would kind of do that. And when you get to Bushnell Park, then you'll learn that Bushnell Park was the first public park, and then,
City.
Wadsworth Atheneum, if you go there, that's the first public art museum in the
oldest
country.
public,
Yeah. So, the great thing about this app is you won't have to walk far before something's going to pop up on your screen.
You may be amazed about how much pops up.
Yeah,
We have to
you
talk
might be
about certain
overload.
filters.
Right,
And
right.
actually, I mean, this is, I love history.
Right.
But I also appreciate art. There's terrific art in the city as you walk around the city. Some of it kind of abstract, some of it very direct.
Right.
The architecture of the city.
Yeah.
Some unbelievable architecture for the buildings that are here. I am struck by it at times.
Right. We spent a lot of time looking at
Some
the
of
Goodwin.
federal building-
Yeah.
The Goodwin, I
Hotel.
love the Goodwin Hotel.
Yeah. Incredible.
Nothing more enjoyable for me than to stand there and look at the brickwork and appreciate
I mean, that stuff isn't done today. It would be way too expensive, or it's just not done like that.
You have to go back to 1881.
Yeah. And it's written right there on the, you'll see it almost like on the stamp on the building. But it's those type of things that, and luckily, a lot of it was saved. Like we mentioned the Mark Twain house. At one point, they actually decided maybe we don't need that and we'll bulldoze that. And it's just like, wow, you just can't believe that came up for discussion, So you're keeping track of your history, and as I knew, we were already running out of time here on things to go. But, I just want to make sure that we get it out there. So if you do, want to help us out with developing an app, please, email us. You can email me at phindle19@gmail.com, or Jerry Irwin also at jewhaler13@gmail.com, and give us a shout, and we can all get together and brainstorm, and like I said, we have a sheet here where we could have gone through easily another half hour.
I've got about 50 photos I could run through.
Yeah, I know, and that's another thing.
Can I say one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just quickly. So one of the things, and I've mentioned this to you before, I'm very passionate about is this is not a for-profit.
Oh,
suggestion.
yeah, absolutely.
My vision of how this works is, my intent is that no one make any money on this. My intent is that it is for the benefit of the city, and for the benefit of those that contribute to it, especially kids and young adults, or whoever contributes to it to take some pride in it,
Right.
be able to put it on the resume,
Right.
and make it as a stepping stone for something else.
Right. This is something that you want to give back so that people,
Yeah.
down
This
the
is
road.
not about making a dollar. I have
Right. I'd
I'd rather be poor than make $8.
Right. I mean, to have the app done and for people to enjoy that would be just, absolutely fantastic. So that's really what we're interested in, people that, kind of want to do this just so we can have it and we all have something that we can, continue forward, almost like, you had a great word, you said it like, bringing history back to Hartford. Another bumper sticker. So
Yeah.
there you go. But I think that's about all the time we got, unfortunately. So we will catch you next time on the Whaler Guys. Have a good night, and remember, one nation under green.